No one likes rejection. Nick is still famous for being the face of the "you did not get into the New York City Marathon." It's not like you can just waltz into those things, but I found one that you can, because it's too crazy. And the backstory has nothing to do but with rejection, is my understanding. But these guys, one guy, let's call him Matt, met him, I think he's Matt, he did not get into the New York Marathon. And he said, "Screw it, New York City, I don't need your permission to run a marathon. I'm gonna run over the Williamsburg Bridge until I did a marathon." And he makes a post about it, and he says, "Come join me." And then other people did, because this is a city with all kinds of crazy people. Well, I think this is the third year that it happened. Last year was a success. I would say that this year was a success too. I can say that because I took part in it.
I want you to start moving this way, then we're going to send you across. 7 minutes, folks.
No bathrooms, no aid station. That's on you. Like, look at this more of a camping trip than your practical marathon experience. It's a hill. The entire bridge, the elevation chart for the marathon is the elevation chart for this event is very fun. And you're gonna do about, I think it's 3,000 feet of elevation if you do the full event. Most people did not finish. Very understandably why. Lastly, the total distance, it's a misnomer. It's not actually a marathon. It's an ultra marathon. This year's event was 31 miles long. It's announced halfway through, so if it's going to be just 10 miles, you'll find out pretty quickly. But as we're not getting the message about every 45 minutes, it's like, uh-oh, it's getting a bit longer. It was eventually announced to be 31 miles. Like, 31 miles is not a healthy thing to do and no planning. I think even David Goggins would not call that a casual jog. That is a serious run. So all of that added up, I went with a total group of 6 people, mostly from my running club. Very great guys all around. That made the night so much richer. We brought aid station, and the fact that we were doing it as a relay, but again, we did 6 people, but we had 2 teams of 3, so scores are supposed to be posted to the website that organized this. But just having, 1, the ability to rest, and 2, we'll call it like a base camp. And especially, we were in a kind of a crazier part of New York City, right before the Williamsburg Bridge. Yeah, there's some skeezy stuff. I immediately, like...
There's a screaming baby behind me. It smells funny. I've been burned by a cigarette. Let's go run Promptu Marathon over a bridge back and forth.
Got burned by a cigarette. I had to tell a crazy guy to get out of my face just because he was straight up just harassing me. And that was before I even got to the race. This is just basic New York for you. But once you were on the race itself, though, I would say very good deal. It's actually surprisingly, so here's the deal. Like, you were going back and forth, seeing a lot of familiar faces. This had a lot of interesting effects, I'd say, on like group dynamic or whatever, because not everyone on the bridge obviously is doing this. Like, beginning of the night, you're going to see maybe, I don't know, 100 souls that are related to this event. About 200 or 100? I don't want to get into, crowd size discussion here. But there was like somewhere between 100 and 200. I didn't count, but a healthy amount of people. But once you got spread out on the bridge, what you see are a bunch of passing bibs back and forth. And I will say I thought a lot of people got like very sweetly supportive, because now you're not silly person running, you're silly group of people running. And that was very, like, it was kind of sweet to see, like, a crowd cheering session in the middle of the bridge. If someone gets hurt, I don't think anyone did. Everyone seemed to accomplish what they did last night just fine, or they went home right after. But if, like, let's say you fell down halfway through, stuff is possible, you're going to be found. Someone's going to run by you within a couple of minutes, like, very, very quickly. If you're worried about being attacked on the bridge, which I don't think you would, but there's it's nighttime, there's one area that looks a little questionable. There's literally a bunch of people around you related to this event, and by the way, they're kind of fit. So I do think help is on the way is a known, and that was like a really nice little kind of safety blanket for the entire event. I looked at it as a hill work training session. Not a proper one. Not one you'd find on any books, but it was still a very interesting night. You're still practicing like refuel strategies. You are 100% getting a workout in. As if you do it as a relay, you can 100% get a race in if you want to do it as a race. And overall, it ended up at Ratabang bar, but that was just like a lovely little finish. Most of the time, I think after a big event, honestly, maybe you just want a big meal and to recharge. Not everyone's gonna want to like go grab a round of beers, but this was a type of night that ended with like a hey, we did this together type of relay. We got to grab a round to celebrate, and it was kind of a sweet event overall. So, you know, the most common question I got asked by folks who were curious about is, would you recommend it? And 100% yes. But as a relay, as long as you got the right team of folks and you're interested in that kind of thing, yeah, 100% would recommend. But just bring some stuff with you. I think some people showed up just expecting to pull it out of themselves, and I think 31 miles, you better have some refueling strategies on board. You're going to be really miserable halfway through, especially with that kind of mission announcement protocol. The organizers were using the application Signal to announce when it was starting, or rather really when it was ending. And that made it really much more interesting than, like, say you go into the New York Marathon, that's a no, that's a finish. You go into a 5K, you know the finish line's right around the corner. This could have been an endless cycle, and there's a lot of time you're going to spend with yourself on this kind of race too. New York City Marathon, you got the city screaming at you the entire time. The New York City Marathon, except for like 2 parts which happen to be over the bridge, it's not really private. You're not really with yourself. You are, but you're gonna hear a roar that's definitely within that din of your head. On this, I think you were hearing the bridge. Like, it's just a totally different keeping yourself company on a type of road type of vibe. So anyway, you know, you'd get it if you'd experienced it, and I would recommend that everyone who wants to try something crazy and new, that's certainly what this is. I love the grassroots organization of this. Again, shout out to organizer Matt. I think his father was there too, running the same thing, also getting involved, and I kind of love that generational love of running that clearly came out and brought people together. So, long story short, Williamsburg Bridge Marathon, I think it is an annual New York thing. If this keeps up, I think in 20 years it's going to be obnoxiously full. So, honestly, maybe I'm not doing any favors by making that video. But anyway, here's some footage. Would recommend. Goodbye.